Song Revolution with John Chisholm on the NRT Podcast Network.
Well, thank you for joining me on Song Revolution. Todd, Amy, and Alan, collectively Selah. How many times are you called Selah? I love that Selah group. They're so awesome.
Or Selah.
Selah, there you go.
Or
yeah.
Sheila. Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. So I know you guys have had an emotional week. You suffered a tremendous loss. Your producer's brother passed away. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. And he really is, I tell you, our producer's name is Jason Setvite. And he really, we call him the fourth member of Selah. We would not have happened without him. Back in the 90s, I was living, broke musician here in town.
Right.
I was a roommate with Jason and two other guys. And one of those other guys, actually both, but one in particular went on to be an incredibly successful songwriter, country songwriter. His name's Brandon Kinney. Great old roommate of mine. But so the four of us broke musicians living together, just trying to find our way in the industry, which is the story of anyone coming to town. You come to town to be a songwriter. You come to town to be a young musician. I mean, just finding your way. You work 4 and 5 jobs at a time to free your schedule up enough to be able to take a gig if it comes or whatever. So we were all together, growing and learning and just helping each other out, and I loved that camaraderie. But so when it came time for us to record what would end up being our first album, we didn't know. We weren't signed to Curb or anything yet. So, but Todd and Nicole is Todd's sister, our original female member. Their mother we'd gone and done a concert for a youth group, but we'd been doing a few concerts it was really just hymns and piano. And she was like, this is really special. She goes, I'd love for you to make an album for our ministry supporters. They have a long-term ministry from the 30s, Todd, right? Your grandfather? Yeah. Out in Congo, Africa. His grandfather went out in the 30s and set up mission stations, and it's been in the family all the way down now. His parents still active, and Todd's youngest brother is he kind of the director?
Yeah, he runs it.
So generational missionaries in Congo. So she said, I would love for you all to put this down as a support for that's all it was going to be for the supporters of the ministry. And so she gave us $2,000, which, if this is anyone listening at the time, especially in the 90s when we made this album, if you were signed to a label, a minimum budget usually was $100,000 for a record album. But the big artists got like $200,000, $300,000, $500,000.
Wow. And you got to say record album.
Yes.
It's not a record. It's not an album. It's a record album. like here in the South, it's not a
record album.
It's not a hose. It's a hose pipe.
That's right.
Here in the South, right?
But so all that to say, when we started doing that, again, we had no money. Todd's mom said, I've got $2,000 to give you. So Jason, who ended up being our long-term producer, Jason was my roommate. And I said, and he was just learning Pro Tools. Pro Tools had really just hit town, like around maybe 94. So
he was one of the first.
One of the first in town to do it. And so he was like, hey, he said, I'm just interning and learning. But he said, this would be great for me to practice and learn. He said, he goes, I love how you guys sound. And he said, I'd love to do it. So we ended up paying him like $10 an hour.
Yep.
And he was interning at a studio. It was the old United Arts Tower, which they've torn down now on 17th.
Yeah.
And so he was interning at a studio there. And the studio owner was very gracious, and he said, you know what, you'll have to work around all the AACs, but he said, I'll let you come in for $30 an hour. For studio time, that's just unheard of. And so we were able to do that, and Jason, worked very hard, and and honestly, we wouldn't have been able to make that first album without him, and he's a brilliant singer himself. He's one of the most...
actually on a lot of our stuff. He'll lay background vocals with Todd.
Right.
And he's actually
he just creates. He produces, but it's not just in the studio. The four of us sit together, or when I'm not there, the three of them, and actually create what you end up hearing, the background ideas. He really is the fourth member.
And since he's a really fine vocalist himself, he can really work with strong vocalists and say, he'll know when to say, hey, give me another take, that wasn't quite it, or hey, try this, or sing this part, or do this, try this.
He's actually one of the top 3.
Yeah, I was about to say he's also himself.
Country singers.
He's like the third most in-demand background singer here in Nashville.
Really?
He's on a ton of country records singing background. So he has. That's what's so interesting and unique about him is that he has the technical skill. Okay, he's an unbelievable engineer. Unbelievable engineer. Like when we work with other engineers, sometimes we're like, "Well, hey, can you just slice that there and put that there if need be?" And they're like, "Oh, you can't really do that." And we're like, our guy can do that, So he's technically
Jason can.
Yeah, he's technically incredible, but he's since he's a singer, so creative, so he can do both sides. But so all that to say, quickly, he in fact, a year ago, actually today, October 19th, he donated a kidney to his youngest brother, who had severe kidney disease and wasn't going to make it.
Nathan.
So Nathan Setvite, and Jason donated a kidney to him last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also did they were trying a study, a stem cell thing. I won't get into the weeds medically, but there ended up being complications these last few months. And it was just too much for Nathan's body. Mm. So Nathan died yesterday.
Oh.
And just really tough. Mm. And Jason, he's feeling just, well, obviously all the emotions, but, what broke my heart was he goes, I tried to save his life. I tried. And I was like, you did. Your kidney allowed him to live longer. Nathan, so if your listeners could pray, his name's Nathan Setvite, his wife's Deb. They have 2 little boys, 8-year-old twins. And now these little boys, she's navigating, telling them that their father's gone and how to do life now without him. And that would honor me so much if your listeners would just, in their prayers, just remember Nathan Setvite and Deb and his family and Jason and the whole family, the whole Setvite family. It's a good Norwegian name. They're from Minnesota.
Right, yeah.
In fact, there's an actual town in Norway named Setvite. And Jason's like, I've got to go see that town.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what you're saying. How do you say the last name?
It looks like Setvite.
It's spelled Saetveit. And no one's ever been able to pronounce it correctly. But
it wasn't. He had one teacher. Like the first day of school, you know how they read your name.
Yeah.
One teacher in all his years of high school and college got it right.
It was at Belmont. Did you ever know Bill Purcell at Belmont?
Yes.
Yes, it was Bill Purcell, who Jason said in class at Belmont the first day. He was like, Jason Setvite, and Jason went. He was shocked. He was like, he goes, yeah, because usually he has to help them say his name. But,
and I thought Chisholm was kind of weird.
But all that to say, if your listeners could be praying for Jason and Nathan, it would just,
absolutely.
I know that the family would appreciate it so much.
And that made it so tough for you guys being here for the Dove Awards, the GMA week, and it's you're no stranger to that environment, but to have to navigate, through the grief, and you're feeling Jason's pain and the loss there. So, and still keep a happy face. How did that work out for you guys?
So Deb, Nathan's wife, called Alan and told him, and Alan didn't tell any of us. He called Jason. Alan's the one who had to tell Jason because Jason was driving back home. But Jason, and if you know Jason, he's just one of the best people in the world.
You'll never know he has the skills he has.
Ever meet.
He never
so humble, but so kind. And so his first thought was, hey, don't tell anybody until after the Doves, so you guys they can all enjoy the night, and then you can tell them if you want to tell them, or you can tell them the next day. So Alan held that all in. And then what was it? Chris Tomlin, who started singing last night, and when he got to How Great Is Our God.
Because I just pictured Nathan free. He suffered so much bodily pain these last few months. And when Chris was singing and we all were singing and worshiping, I was like, he's healthy. He's home. Yeah. He's free.
Yeah.
Right?
And that is comfort. But any of us, anybody listening, when you lose someone you love, you can take, if they were a believer, you can take comfort that they're healed and whole. But what it leaves here for you, all of us on this side, our prayer was that Nathan would be healed here, so that his children could grow up with a father.
Wow.
And he could be a dad for a long time, and his wife, and be a family, and all of us have him. He was a dear friend of mine. It's not just Jason. Jason's my best friend, but I've known Nathan in the family. I've known Nathan over 20 years.
Right.
So I've lost a friend, a good friend. And we hoped, I selfishly hoped, but I know all of us do, that when you're in that situation, you want that person healed and whole and with you here on this side. And God can heal, and Nathan is healed. He's just not here. And so we're here for a short time to deal with that separation and that suffering and that heartbreak,
Yeah.
But music, even last night, when I was sitting there just dying inside, music is one of the greatest gifts that God has given us. And even last night, with that fresh, raw pain, to hear Chris Tomlin start singing How Great Is Our God, and even knowing,
Wow. Well, I feel a bit of that just in the last 2 months. a dear friend of mine passed away in his sleep at 66 years old, and his name's Mike Kyle. I'll do a little shout out to Tina, and these are people that are 36-year friends for us, lived right around the corner. Mike used to manage Petra and Newsboys, and he had a very successful company here, a marketing agency called the Resource Agency for years. Shared offices with CeCe Winans and some other folks. And Mike went on to some great things. Actually became one of the best real estate agents in Williamson County, which isn't easy to do.
Good
but
for him.
you know, we lost him overnight, and death feels so final. There's no, you know, picking up the phone and calling or texting, or you think of something you want to say, you know, to Nathan, or in our case to Mike. And it is, I love what you said, that raw pain, that raw, really a dependency on the reality of resurrection and of our hope in Christ. So, wow. And that makes it all real, doesn't it? And when you think about the people that are maybe listening today on the show, or that you get to sing to and lead in worship through your great hymn albums and your new Christmas album. We'll talk about those in a few minutes. But the thing that I love about you guys is it just feels real. It's not glitz and glamour, although you're all three very glamorous. You're glamorous.
Oh, I got my glamour shirt on right now.
That's very kind of you to say, John.
With the flannels going on top. But what does it feel like? So you've got the albums, many albums, 25 years of success, millions of downloads, and you know, people love you. You're one of the most beloved groups, you know, in Christian music for all this. But I know that this is very raw and painful with Nathan's loss. But what does it feel like to be you guys right now?
That's an interesting question.
That is an interesting
Well,
question.
I know we're grateful. Oh, you go.
Yeah,
I was
that's what I
very
was gonna
grateful.
say.
You know, for whatever reasons, a lot of artists don't get to have a career this long, and I know that we're very grateful, and that we can keep hopefully serving people with music and comforting them. Yeah, I know how much music's comforted me in my own life, and I'm praying now, especially for the Setvite family, that music will comfort them, because music can do so much when words can't. You know, but I'm grateful. But you go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah,
you.
no, it's grateful. I mean, there's
wait, no fair choosing the same word.
and excited. Like last night is
great to be
you know,
me.
something like the Dove Awards is so exciting, and not just because, you know, the excitement of like being nominated or whatever, but just seeing all the other artists that we've known over the years and sung with over the years, or we are planning to sing with, and it's like a little family reunion, and it's that's exciting when someone that you hold in high esteem runs up to you and says, "Oh my gosh, hi, oh, I love you so much," and you know, it's like I'm, you know, what do you call it, awestruck at, you know, like I ran over, I had to make my moment with Miss CeCe, but when she saw me, she did the you, and then hugged me, and I was like, hey, she said you. You know, maybe she remembered my name, maybe she didn't,
Maybe
but
not.
because she really knows me as Selah. Like we're all, you know, she'll say, oh, I've been knowing Selah forever.
Sure.
I'm like, does she remember that I'm Amy?
Yeah.
But it was, you know, she's beautiful.
Well,
and
at least she didn't call you Nicole.
that's true.
I mean, you know, that's a.
Well,
I
we
cried
just taped an
We did
ABC
just a thing
special
with
with
her
her
in
at
February.
Easter.
Oh, okay.
I cried makeup on her sleeve. She held me and I cried. Because her music has been just inspirational and really healing to me.
Yes.
And so in that side of it is you feel special. And I'm just so shocked still sometimes that we get to do what we do. And then the other side of it is the ministry side. And, you know, with COVID and having fewer shows and not being on stage as much over the last 2 years as we have been maybe in the past. We've been in the studio a lot together, but we had a few shows recently, and I'm standing on stage and I'm listening to Todd sing and I'm listening to Alan play, and I'm like, I've missed this. I can't believe I get to do this. Like, the ministry, the hearts, they are who they've always been. People who love Jesus, who love worshiping. And every time I get to be on stage, even when we're tired and cranky, and I will say at our last show, I was tired and cranky. My curling iron broke. I didn't eat any food.
Man,
I didn't eat dinner
we
before I
gotta stop
sang.
right there.
I was like, I don't want to be here right now. Like, I was just cranky. And
Fortunately, I brought my curling
You
iron.
did. And for those of you who are not seeing the video, Todd, you could use a little curl in your
I could use some
beard,
hair.
a little goatee, but you'd be burning that bald head.
That's right.
So,
And
yeah.
and then we get on stage and Todd starts to sing, and it's like everything goes away. Who cares what my hair looks like? Like, this is what we are made to do. And it's especially in those times when I feel like God just gives us an extra special dose of, I don't know if it's energy or just compassion on us, because it's usually in those nights where I'm just tired and cranky and don't want to be there that the congregation will sing extra loud or extra beautiful. And then you're hit with this wave of sound coming back at you that is heavenly. And they're singing, hymns. So it is well, or how great thou art, or whatever it is that we're singing. And it catches you and you're like, this, it doesn't matter about my hair. It doesn't matter what we had written. It doesn't matter how long I've been on the road or how tired I might be. This is what heaven is going to be like, rejoicing and worshiping and never ending beauty in sound. And for that, I am just amazed that, that God allows us to do that. And
All
it's
right.
beautiful.
So Alan's grateful. You're amazed. All right. So Todd, can you top that?
Man, that's all pretty good. So, I was just thinking, like, the people that listen to us are very engaged, and the comments that they make on social media or when we're in concert, they're just like, when we'll go live before we do a show during sound check, and so it's just a way to connect with everybody. And they might request, a song, and maybe it's someone who's living in Switzerland and is never going to see us in concert. So they're like, hey, could you sing, Precious Lord, or, Press On, or whatever it is. And so we'll do those songs as we sing, and just that they care so much, or the things that they'll share, when, they were watching their dad pass away in the hospital bed, and they were playing our music, or we'll get requests for just different songs for different funerals or memorials. And you really have these sacred moments, where people are in their cars, and you get to be with them. I would never just go hang out, with them, but with the music, we get to be there and minister and speak to them. And so I think I really appreciate that. There's sometimes you can take it for granted, but just to be like, man, thank you for welcoming us in and supporting us and connecting, but letting us be a part of these special moments in your life, or where you have parents come up and they say, our kids are learning the hymns because of your music, and thank you for that. And my response is, no, man, thank you, And then you have the parents who come up and go, I grew up listening to your music. And I'm like, oh, are we that old?
Yes.
But yeah, so I think thankful is a thing that comes to my mind, that we've still been able to do this and we can continue to do it. Like when we did our greatest hymns record, we asked them, hey, help us choose the songs. It just can't be a song we've ever recorded, but help us choose the hymns. And we had over 1,000 comments on all socials, just
fantastic, different
song ideas. And then they helped us narrow it down to 50, and then we narrowed it down to 10. But it was all songs they chose. And so that was just really special that they were a part of that they cared that much, that they gave those comments. And the love of God was the number one choice. And that was a song my grandma used to sing. And so, yeah, I'm very thankful for that. The way that they
beautiful
care.
hymn and beautiful albums. You've got your third hymns album being released along with your new Christmas album. But before we get there, I have one more kind of hopefully personal question that you don't get. What's the most difficult challenge that you guys face on the road or just in your ministry?
Navigating being a parent and traveling and just being the mom.
Okay. How old are your kids?
I have a 10-year-old, and then we have a 7-year-old foster child. And it's been a hard year.
And you live in Texas.
I live in Texas.
Live here in Nashville, so.
Yeah. And I have an amazing husband, and, he single parents a lot. And I have an amazing mom who, when I call her crying crying. Foster care is not for the weary
Oh no.
of heart. And my parents did foster care for 20 years. I have 4 adopted siblings through foster care. And so I just was like, it's fine. Like, I know I got this. And then we said yes to our first foster child in January 21st. And by January 25th, I was on the phone with my mom. Like, you gotta go help me. This is so hard. Like,
what have I done?
He's so broken. And, and I think she came out, I don't know, she's been out like 8 times this year from California to Texas. She's coming for 6 weeks for November and Christmas tour.
And you're
because
like, praise
it's
God.
and my husband's like, when your mom's here, she does everything. Like, she cooks, she cleans, she does the laundry, and she serves us. And I'm like, Mom, sit down. And she doesn't know what she's, she can't just sit. And it's so navigating just parenting and foster parenting and making sure that when I am home, I can be present. Like I left on, what day did I leave? Monday morning. I'll be home late tonight. I will see the children tomorrow, and then I will leave again Friday morning.
Wow.
And so that's
challenging.
rough.
That's
And
got to be challenging at best.
it is. And I like to take my son with me when I can. And I'm driving. We have Texas shows Friday. And so I was like, I'm going to take you out of school. And he's like, I have a sleepover. I'm not coming to your show. And I was like, but I want to spend time with you. And so, here we are at the age where he doesn't necessarily want to spend so much time with me. So just, we're buddies in some ways, but he forgets that I'm his parent sometimes. And so I have to remind him.
Right.
I'm your mom. Do what I say.
Yeah.
You're cutting school and coming with me. And he's like, no, I'm not. I'm going to sleepover. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah. What about you, Alan? What's the hardest thing you think that
you for me, probably is just maybe a little more, you feel, I'm 52. I turned 52 this past August. So, and we started I was in my 20s, and even before Selah in 97, I had toured. I was with a group. I don't know if you remember a group called McCarter Sisters Country Group. They were late 80s, early 90s.
I had a song recorded by Jennifer McCarter.
You did?
And the McCarters.
Which song?
Mountain Memories.
Yeah, I love that song.
You love that song?
I've got those albums. I love that song.
That's
Oh yeah, when I was like, this reminds me of East Tennessee.
Well, my only country cut was that. Yeah,
that's a beautiful song, John. I love it.
Did you guys play that when you were in Europe? Did you play that song?
Yeah. That was on that was on the set list. I mean, I love. But I toured Europe with them. Like, I think we went 4 times. I remember this was my first time ever going out of the country. And, and our first trip was in Switzerland. And I remember looking at my hotel room. I'm like 24 years old, 25, and seeing the Alps. And I was like, I want to do this the rest of my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, but all that to say, so, I see even before Selah hit the road hard in the 90s, like, I was already hitting it pretty good with some groups and all. So now I'm 52. I would say for me, the bigger challenge now is just kind of the physical, the way our schedule's sometimes structured, we're doing really early flights, late nights, plus driving. And so a lot of times on the road, we may only get, like for 3 days in a row, you may get 4 hours of sleep a night.
Right.
And in your 20s and 30s, you can bounce back from that pretty good. But like we just did a pretty rough sleep schedule weekend a little bit. And for the whole next week, I could feel it all week.
Absolutely.
So I'd say for me, the biggest challenge now is the physical toll of the road and being on the road for, I guess, for me, almost 30 years now. It's a pretty big physical challenge.
All that fried food.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. And as much as you want to say, hey, I'm going to, like after a show, you're like, no, we're just going to stop somewhere. I'm just going to get a salad after a show. That doesn't happen because you're ravenous after a show, and it's like, okay, here comes a big old cheeseburger. And as much as you don't want it, as much as you tell yourself that it's not good for me, I don't need to do that. Your body is like, I'm hungry, and you are going to stuff me.
Yeah.
And it's so health challenges. I'm overall in good health. I'm working on weight loss and stuff. That's always been a challenge my whole life, but just physical body toll, I would say, a bunch of musicians, just road life can be, especially if you're, and it's a blessing to have a career this long. Mm-hmm. But if you've been living your life on the road for almost 30 years, there's a lot of life you miss out on, and there's a lot of health toll it takes. So it's definitely a trade.
Absolutely. I've traveled off and on, touring and doing music as well, and it's very, very hard on you. Just the air, I don't know how much you fly.
We fly a lot, yes.
And that is, it really is much harder on the body than you even know. Yeah. I actually did a show Sunday night at the Franklin Theater. I'll put a plug in here.
All right.
And I haven't sung in public in 7 years.
Get out of here.
And I was determined that I was going to enjoy every minute of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was exhausted and cranky, and my curling iron broke too. But you know what? Once I got up there and got over myself, I loved it.
Yeah,
had a great
that's the
time, and the fatigue you put behind you.
You
But
do.
then when it's done, you know, I intentionally booked myself heavily this week so that I wouldn't get into that post-adrenaline depression. Do you ever have that at all, or are you
Yeah.
just constantly singing so you never have the letdown?
No.
Oh, no.
Let down.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, what about you, Todd? What's the hardest thing you face?
I think, like he was saying, being in shape and traveling and sleep. I have
Right.
I get like at night, I'll just have this a lot of anxiety that I'm not going to be able to sleep enough, and then you end up staying up super late, and then you have an early flight. And so, yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I
And of course,
struggle
sleep
with.
really, I mean, your all's instrument are your voices.
Yeah.
You know, like I can, even if I'm exhausted, I can kind of chunk along on the
Yeah,
piano,
right.
you know?
Right.
But your all's instrument very much depends on sleep
Totally.
and physicality.
You drop to a bass.
In the morning, you're like,
He doesn't
yeah.
feel well. He is so low.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you one more question. I know that we need to get to the Hymns album, the new Christmas album, but and if just one of you wants to answer this, it's okay. But what do you think is the question no one's asking you right now that you wish they would?
Oh,
Well, actually, the one you just did was good. I mean, just about, you know,
The hardest
talking
the
about
hardest things, yeah.
like challenges, being able to actually talk about, you know, I think a lot of people look at the stage. I mean, they see us on stage,
Yes.
and I love that, and we love that communion with them. But they, like you were talking about, they don't see that 3:30 alarm AM call to fly somewhere, and then you land and you drive 2 hours, and then after the show you drive 2 hours back. You know, you're done at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. You drive back and you get back to your hotel at at midnight, and you've got to be up again at 4 in the morning
Right.
or 3:30 in the morning again for the next early flight. I mean, so that part is not seen, you know, everybody, because, you know, I've got friends that aren't, they're like, gosh, it's so glamorous. You go everywhere. And I'm like, well,
not the glamorous.
I'm like, we
You
see
don't
it.
really get
Curling
to
iron
see.
breaks.
Yeah, it's like
so
you-
it ain't glamorous anymore.
I was like, you know, we see a lot of airports and a lot of backstages and a lot of, you know,
of highways.
a lot of, you know, bus. I mean, you know, it's like that. So, I mean, so you asking about that, you know, we don't get asked that a lot
Yeah.
and I think it's important to share that honest side of it, especially even with this podcast, if listeners are wanting to really make a career in the music industry. It is a lot of time away from home, away from families. You know, we have artist friends that have missed their children's first words, their first steps, their first, you know, I remember, and this broke my heart. This was before iPhones, before FaceTime. Our first Christmas tour, 2002, Rose of Bethlehem had just come out. Todd and his wife Angie had just had their
Said the
first
twins.
children, their twins, and they were in the hospital. She'd been in the hospital how long? 9 weeks on bed rest? And the children were born, I mean, they were very small,
Preemies.
underweight, preemies. And so one was still in the hospital, and he had to get on the bus because we couldn't move the tour. You know what I mean?
Right,
And
right.
so he comes to the bus that night, and they were able to bring one baby home, and one is still in the hospital. And I just remember hugging him, and I'm like, I mean, if we could have changed it, we would. And I wish sometimes I wish we had, because I was like, a father should not be leaving a baby in the hospital
Right.
to go and do this, as much as we love to do this. I was like,
Yeah, there's sometimes you can really lose perspective.
Yeah.
You know, and it can just be so much of a, well, you got to do the next date. You got to do the next date because you don't know what's going to happen, instead of really going, okay, you know what, we don't really need to be out here. Like, it's not going to end our career.
Right.
Right.
You know,
Well, that's the hindsight of at 25 years later. That's the
Yes.
question, right?
Yeah.
What it's okay to say no to things, and I think young artists especially want to hustle. They want to make a name. They want to say yes to everything, and you can burn yourself out and absolutely wear yourself out. Like, I mean, we told Al, if you can't be here today, you can't be here today. And he was like, no, I'm okay. I think it's probably good for you to be around us and talking, and for Jason to say, no, go. This is what you need to do, and I'm okay. But if you know, he missed a show the other night because the family called and said, can you get to Nebraska and be with us? And he was like, yes, I'll be on the next flight. And so
And I knew that was the
we
important
sang
thing.
without him,
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
that's okay. And so for especially anyone, you know, especially new in the industry, like, yeah, building your brand and building your career is important. But at the end of it all, are you going to lay on your deathbed and wish you had more shows? Or are you going to wish you'd spent more time with the people that you loved and invested in them and put them first?
Good, Amy.
And so I think that's where we are 25 years later. We love what we do. We love our fans and we love ministering to them. But we also understand what's important. And if my mom hasn't been able to come all the time, I would have had to really say no. And I did. I pulled them aside. Was it June or July? We were in the recording studio and they sent me a recording schedule and I just burst into tears and I said, you guys, I can't do this. I can't do this. This is what I have situationally at home. This is what I need. And so Todd, he hugged me and he said, what can you do? Let's look at this and you tell me what you can do and the rest of it we'll figure out.
Beautiful.
And to be able to have the freedom to say that to them and not feel like, oh, they're pressuring me into recording. Like, hey guys, I'm broken. I'm at my end. I'm frazzled. Here's what I can give you. And they made it work and the albums came out and they're beautiful and they're complete and they're everything that we hoped they would be.
That's awesome.
And they picked up the slack. So thank you for that. But yeah, it's okay to stop and say, this is too much. I can't do this. Because when you have artists who push it too hard, they end up in the hospital. They end up with broken marriages. They end up with children who don't talk to them. Honestly, I mean, I'm sure there's so many cautionary tales out there of artists who they had to stop. They had to stop because you have to put, you have to honor God first and your family second and then ministry third.
Yeah.
Or it's not going to work.
That's so good. Yeah. Well, I know that we need to talk for just a moment about your 2 new albums. You have your own label now.
Yeah.
And so how exciting and how daunting probably. But, truth be known.
Well, it's funny too.
So hard.
John, you get it.
I'm the risk taker. Like I grew up in Congo. We used to hunt hippos and, do this and that. And we had a pet chimpanzee and all this kind of stuff.
You had to get that.
And I did.
But hippos,
but Alan was the one who's like, we need to start a label. And I was like, no, man, we need to stick with what we know. And he's like, no, we really need to start a label. So we jumped into it. We recorded an album called Step Into My Story that won a Dove Award 2 years ago. And now we released 2 projects. So we've got Greatest Hymns 3, which is actually brand new songs. It came from 1,000 song selection from our fans. We just released that October 14th. And then we also released a Christmas record called At This Table. And so that's 10 different songs. They're both out, but digitally, you can get the CDs on our website or Amazon or Christian bookstores. We really wanted to encourage people. There's still about 800, 900 Christian bookstores.
Go support.
Go support them because the ministry they have there is incredible. And so we're going to have one digital single for Christmas. At This Table will come out November 4th. And then we did the old Anne Murray song, Elvis Did It Too, and another group called Ocean called Put Your Hand in the Hand.
Oh, yeah.
And that one's out now, but we're not going to release the digital songs until next year, over 2023. So you can get the CD and get all the music now. But if it's just digital, you got to wait, and that'll start to come out.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on that. You accidentally put a number in your record label name. I noticed that. So a little alphanumeric jive going on there. Well, I just want to acknowledge the contribution that you guys have been making over the 25 years, and may you have another 25 as long as there are enough curling irons to go around.
And I have so many collected over the years.
Just really appreciate what you've done for people to encourage and to, of course, keep the hymns alive and add to the repertoire of great CCM songs. And thank you for the heart that you bring. And Amy, I just have to say that when I heard Firm Foundation, the first thing I thought was, okay, that was my biggest song ever, released in 94. And it's like, how dare anybody do a Firm Foundation? And you crushed it. Vocal on that is unbelievable. Thank you guys for the contribution that you bring to the kingdom and to encourage so many people.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Todd, Amy, and Alan. Collectively, Selah.
Thanks, John.
Selah. Hey, we're Selah, and thank you for listening to our episode on Song Revolution.
Put your hand in the hand of the man who stilled the waters. Put your hand in the hand of the man who calmed the sea. Take a look at yourself and you will look at others differently by putting your hand in the hand of the man from Galilee. Now every time I look into the holy book, I want to tremble. When I read about the part where a carpenter cleared the temple. 'Cause the buyers and the sellers were no different fellas than what I profess to be. And it causes me shame to know we're not the people we should be. So put your hand in the hand of the man who stilled the water. Put your hand in the hand of the man who calmed the sea. And take a look at yourself and you will look at others differently by putting your hand in the hand of the man from Galilee. My mama taught me how to pray before I reached the age of 7. And when I'm down on my knees, that's when I'm close to heaven. And Daddy lived his life with 4 kids and a wife. You do what you must do, but he showed me enough of what it takes to get you through. Yeah, so put your hand in the hand of the man who stilled the water. I put your hand in the hand of the man who calmed the sea. And take a look at yourself and you will look at others differently by putting your hand in the hand of the man from Galilee. One more time. Put your hand in the hand of the man who stilled the water. Put your hand in the hand of the man who calmed the sea. Oh, and take a look at yourself and you will look at others differently by putting your hand in the hand of the man from Galilee. By putting your hand in the hand of the man from Galilee. One more time. Put your hand in the hand of the man from Galilee. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hey, thanks for joining us on the show today. I hope that you'll jump over to NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com and check out all the resources there to encourage you in your own songwriting. And if you like what we're doing, why not share this episode out on your socials? You can find the link in the show notes. We'll see you next time.